Every week, I read a lot of reports, economic reports, Federal Reserve reports, inflation data, employment numbers, market research. It's just part of what I do. Most of those reports confirm something I already know. Some surprise me a little, but every once in a while, I read something that completely changes the way I think about a topic. That happened to me this week. I spent some time reading the newest retirement confidence survey from the Employee Benefit Research Institute. Now, if you're not familiar with it, every year they ask thousands of American workers and retirees questions about retirement. Questions like, when do you think you'll retire? What worries you the most? How prepared do you feel? And for people who are already retired, has retirement turned out the way you expected? I expected to find statistics, charts, maybe a few trends. What I didn't expect was for the survey to challenge one of my own assumptions, because somewhere around the middle of the report, I realized I'd been asking the wrong question. For years, most retirement conversations have started with one question: how much money do I need to retire? But after reading this report, I don't think that's the first question we should ask anymore. I think a better question is, how am I going to replace the paycheck I've depended on for most of my life? Because that's what retirement really is. It's the transition from earning a paycheck to creating one. So today, I want to walk through some of the findings with you, not because this survey has all the answers, but because I think it asks some really important questions. Questions every one of us should be asking ourselves. Whether retirement is 20 years away or 2 years away. Now, let me tell you what this episode isn't. This isn't going to be another video telling you there's one magic number you need before you retire. It isn't another discussion about trying to beat the stock market. And it definitely isn't about making you feel bad if you think you're behind. In fact, one of the things this survey made clear is, if you're worried about retirement, you're certainly not alone. Instead, I want to do something a little different. I want to walk through this report together, almost page by page, because I think it tells a story, not just about retirement, but about how retirement itself is changing. We're going to look at one chart that honestly made me stop and think. And then I want to spend some time talking about what all of this means. Because here's what kept running through my mind while I was reading. What if retirement isn't really about accumulating the biggest portfolio anymore? What if retirement is about creating dependable income? That can replace the paycheck you've counted on your entire working life. That's a very different conversation, and I think it's a much more useful one. So let's start with one of the first things that jumped out at me. Take a look at these charts. One side shows what workers expect retirement will look like. The other shows what retirees say actually happened. Now just pause for a second and really look at that. Isn't that interesting? The picture people have in their heads doesn't always match reality. Some people retire earlier than they planned. Others work longer than they expected. Some retire because they choose to. Others retire because life chose for them. Health changes. Companies downsize. Parents need care. A spouse gets sick. Life has a way of rewriting even the best financial plans. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons in this report. Retirement isn't a date on a calendar. It's a transition. Maybe one of the biggest transitions we'll ever experience. For decades, most of us grew up with the same picture of retirement. You worked full-time, you reached 65, you collected a pension, you started Social Security, and that was retirement. Simple, predictable, almost like flipping a light switch. But look around today, that's not what retirement looks like for many Americans anymore. Instead, it's more like crossing a bridge. On one side, there's your career, your paycheck, the income you've depended on for decades. On the other side, there's retirement. Somewhere in the middle, things begin to change. Maybe you cut back to 3 days a week. Maybe you consult. Maybe you start a small business. Maybe you help your kids with childcare while earning a little extra income. Maybe Social Security begins. Maybe you're drawing a little from savings. Instead of one paycheck, you now have several income sources working together. And that's when something really clicked for me. We've spent decades talking about building retirement savings, but eventually those savings have to do something. They're no longer just an account balance. They're part of your paycheck. Think about your working life. One paycheck probably did most of the heavy lifting. It paid the mortgage, bought groceries, covered vacations, helped raise a family. Retirement is different. That paycheck often gets replaced by several smaller streams of income. Social Security, retirement savings, maybe a pension, maybe part-time work, maybe consulting, maybe income from assets you've built over the years. Different sources, one purpose: creating a dependable paycheck. And I think that's why this survey changed how I think about retirement. The goal isn't simply to retire with the biggest pile of money possible. The goal is to build enough dependable income that you can confidently replace the paycheck you've spent your entire life earning. And when I realized that, the next chart in the survey suddenly became even more interesting, because despite years of strong markets, many workers actually feel less financially secure. How can that be? That's where this report really starts to challenge conventional thinking. Now think about everything that's happened over the last several years. We've seen one of the strongest bull markets in history. Retirement accounts have generally grown. Home values climbed dramatically. Unemployment has remained relatively low. If investment returns were the entire story, you'd expect people to feel dramatically better about their financial lives. But that's not really what we're seeing. So I found myself asking, why? How can portfolios grow while confidence doesn't? I don't think it's because Americans suddenly forgot how to save. I think it's because retirement has become more complicated. People are living longer, healthcare costs are less predictable, housing costs have changed. Inflation has reminded us that prices don't always stay low. Many families are helping aging parents while still helping adult children. Some people are supporting grandchildren. Others are carrying debt longer than previous generations. All of those things affect retirement, not just your investment returns. And I think that's an incredibly important distinction, because if retirement is influenced by all of those things, then maybe improving retirement isn't just about earning another percentage point on your investments. Maybe it's about improving the entire picture. Here's what surprised me. When people feel behind, they often focus on the one thing they think can change everything overnight: investment returns. But that's also the one thing we have the least control over. The other controls, those are decisions. And decisions are where we often have the greatest opportunity. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people. They're both 62 years old. They both looked at their retirement accounts, and they both come to the same conclusion: I wish I had saved more. From there, their stories go in two completely different directions. The first person says, I need bigger returns. I'm going to invest more aggressively. I've got to make up for lost time. Now, maybe that works. Now let's look at the second person. Instead of asking, how do I get richer? They ask, how do I build a stronger retirement paycheck? That's a very different question. Maybe they decide to work one more year. Maybe they rethink when they'll claim Social Security. Maybe they reduce housing expenses as retirement approaches. Notice what's happening. Every one of those decisions either creates more dependable income or reduces the amount of income they need. Neither person can change the past. Neither person can go back and save more 20 years ago, but one of them is building flexibility, and flexibility creates options. Now, before we go any further, I want to ask you a question. If retirement happens sooner than you expected, how confident are you that your current plan could replace your paycheck? Not your portfolio, your paycheck. Because that's the question this survey kept bringing me back to. If you're not completely sure, that's exactly why we created the retirement scorecard. It's designed to help you understand where you are today, identify potential gaps, and begin thinking about the transition from earning income to creating dependable retirement income. When we come back, I want to leave you with 5 practical ideas, not investment predictions, not magic formulas, just 5 ways to make your retirement paycheck stronger no matter where you are today. Because if this survey taught me anything, it's this. Retirement isn't won by chasing perfection. It's built by making better decisions, one step at a time. So let me leave you with something practical. Maybe you've been watching this, thinking, Chris, I'm one of those people in the survey. I'm not exactly where I hoped I'd be. Retirement feels closer than it used to. If that's you, I want you to hear this. You don't have to solve your retirement with one giant decision. You improve retirement by making a series of better decisions. And almost every one of those decisions either increases the dependable income you'll have or reduces the amount of income you'll need. That's why I don't think of these as retirement tips. I think of them as ways to build a stronger retirement paycheck. Let's start with something that sounds simple, but can have a surprisingly big impact. Working one more year. Now, before anyone rolls their eyes, I'm not saying everyone should work longer. Some people can't, some people don't want to. That's okay. But if working another year is an option, don't think of it as simply one more paycheck. Delaying Social Security may increase the monthly benefit you'll receive for the rest of your life. That's a lot of positive changes from one additional year. Sometimes we spend years looking for the perfect investment. Retirement doesn't have to mean 40 hours a week to zero. Maybe it means 20. Maybe it means consulting. Maybe it means helping a local business. Maybe it means teaching, doing something you actually enjoy. Now, here's why this matters. Every dollar you earn is one less dollar your retirement savings have to provide. That takes pressure off your investments. The third piece of your retirement paycheck is one of the most important, Social Security. For some people, claiming earlier makes sense. For others, waiting may result in a larger monthly benefit. The right answer depends on your overall retirement plan, your health, your family, your other income sources, your goals. That's why I encourage people to learn about their options well before they retire. Retirement Paycheck Builder number 4. Plan healthcare before you need it. Here's another lesson the survey reminded me of. Retirement isn't just about replacing income. It's also about preparing for expenses. Healthcare may be one of the biggest variables in retirement, and unfortunately, many people don't start thinking about it until they're already making Medicare decisions. Instead, learn about it early. Understand your options. Think through supplemental coverage. Estimate what healthcare might cost as part of your retirement budget. The more surprises you eliminate, the more dependable your retirement paycheck becomes. Planning ahead doesn't remove uncertainty, but it gives uncertainty fewer opportunities to derail your plan. Builder number 5, make sure your investments know their new job. This may be the biggest lesson I took away from the entire survey. When you're 35, your investments have one job: grow. Grow for retirement. Grow for the future. But as retirement approaches, their job begins to change. They're no longer just building wealth, they're helping create your paycheck. And that's a completely different responsibility. Instead of asking, what's going to produce the highest return? Start asking, how will this help support the income I'll depend on every month? That simple shift changes everything. Now, let me add one more thought. This is where I see people get into trouble. They realize they're behind. They panic. They think, I've got to catch up. And suddenly, they're taking risks they never would have considered 10 years earlier. Sometimes that works, but sometimes it backfires. And when you're 35, you have time to recover. When you're 65, time becomes one of your most valuable assets. I'm not saying growth no longer matters. Of course it does. I'm saying the closer you get to retirement, the more important it becomes to understand whether the amount of risk you're taking matches the job your money now has to do. If your investments are becoming part of your paycheck, protecting that paycheck deserves every bit as much attention as growing it. That's a very different way to think about retirement, and I think it's a better one. As always, there are a few things I'll continue watching: inflation, healthcare costs, interest rates, housing, and any proposals involving Social Security. Not because any one headline changes your retirement overnight, but because all of them affect the income you'll need and the income you'll have. The survey reminded me that retirement rarely unfolds exactly the way we imagined, but it also reminded me of something even more important. You probably have more choices than you think. Maybe you work one more year. Maybe you work differently. Maybe you spend a little less. Maybe you plan Social Security more carefully. Maybe you review your healthcare plan. None of those decisions has to be perfect, but together they can make your retirement paycheck stronger. And in my opinion, that's the real goal. So you can spend less time worrying about money and more time enjoying the life you've worked so hard to build. What's your take on all of this? I'd genuinely be interested to hear your perspective, so down in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. And if you found this episode helpful, make sure you like this video and also subscribe to this channel. Every single week, we break down current economic events, market trends, and historical patterns to help you make more informed financial decisions during uncertain times. Thanks again for joining me on this episode of Straight Talk. And with that being said, I'll see you next week.